Is this Swindon? It is. You sure?
Yeah, I think so.
See, this looks exactly the same on where I'm from. Except, where I'm from, if you were to go down the road and around the corner from me, concealed in the field at the bottom of a valley, several families of horses all live in one big herd. Okay, so bear with me, because this next part will sound absurd. But there lived this bright-eyed unicorn. Now this unicorn's glittering horn didn't really conform to the ideals of others, especially to those ideals of his brothers, and thus the unicorn felt the scorn and the frustration that came along with his alienation. And his only friend, who was a one-eyed and three-legged Shetland, would say, "Don't worry, mate, I got your back." Whilst battalions of steroid-styled stallions would swagger across the paddock in order to wreak some kind of havoc. Now, this unicorn, he'd had enough. He was sick and he was tired of being picked on. So one day, he packed up all of his things and he moved to London. And on his first day, as he stepped off the tube, he was followed by a pair of pinstripe shoes, property of a fashion designer who had spotted his horn and he'd become absolutely besotted with our unicorn. So he gave him a job as a top-end model. And it became this poster for boys and girls to ogle. But out of the strangest of his luck, his mind still boggles at why his old herd now make replica horns out of recycled old bottles. It's a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, one minute our unicorn was completely hated, and the next minute everybody wanted to be like him. And now there's a million of them who are just like him, and they'll curse like him, they'll not give a toss like him, they'll dress like him, they'll walk, talk and even act like him. I mean, it just might be the next best thing, but it's not quite him. So, would the real Slim Shady please stand up? Our unicorn didn't care though. In fact, he loved it. He was living the high life. But the glitz and the glam had gone to his brain and, well, nothing can ever really be the same. Not when 5-star cruise ships and expensive champagne have just become mundane. Yeah. Unicorns change. I mean, even his only friend, who was still the one-eyed and three-legged Shetland, now with a prosthetic leg, said, "You're a prick!" So what fairy tales don't tell you is that you give somebody the world as an instant oyster, you give them power and you give them fame, and you turn a nice young unicorn into a mother fluffing shame. And our unicorn had been elevated to a king or a messiah. But little did he know that life can backfire, especially when you've been created like Frankenstein's monster, and especially when you've got your corporation as your sponsor. It was a tool, a product to sell, and nothing more than a bejeweled hooker. So the people were now bored. They now adored this duck-billed platypus who would flatter us with his shiny, sexy beak. Jeez. You know, the future begins to look really bleak when this is the peak of media hype and your primary source for Joe Bloggs' delight. A once hero was now filled with the law. And beside him was a hole. A hole that he filled with nothing but money, drugs, and illicit porn. Yeah, platypus really is the new unicorn. And this realization, it gave him so much pain and so much anxiety that he went to his cupboard and he took out his prescribed diazepam and just a little bit too much ketamine.